In the bustling aisles of a local Target, tensions soared as Jasmine Crockett, a fiery advocate known for her unyielding stance on justice, found herself in a spiraling confrontation that would ignite a movement. Her voice, raised in defiance over a trivial pricing dispute, attracted the unwelcome attention of Officer Mark Dunham, whose decision to handcuff her sent ripples of shock through the crowd. The fluorescence overhead starkly illuminated her incredulous gaze and the murmurs of disbelief from onlookers as the oppressive weight of an unjust system clamped down. Yet, as social media exploded with outrage and the story spread like wildfire, the stage was set for an extraordinary uprising. But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. The fluorescent lights of the bustling Target cast a harsh glare as Jasmine Crockett moved with determined strides down the toy aisle, clutching a receipt and a brightly colored box she had just purchased. Her brow furrowed, she approached a young store clerk who stood behind the customer service counter, her voice tinged with the resolve of someone who has fought many such battles before. The pricing on the shelf had been clear, yet her receipt told a different story. A familiar scenario, amplified by the numerous times she had stood her ground in the face of unfairness. The young clerk, though polite, seemed unsure of how to handle Jasmine's assertiveness. As the discussion progressed, Jasmine's tone grew louder, not out of disrespect or aggression, but from a passionate demand for justice, a bid to be heard in a society that too often decided that her voice was too loud or her demeanor too bold. Her vibrant presence attracted the attention of other shoppers, their curiosity piqued by the rising volume and clear articulation in her voice, echoing Jasmine's insistence on fairness. It was in this charged atmosphere that Officer Mark Dunham entered the scene. Responding to what he intuited, or perhaps misjudged as a commotion, the officer exuded a practiced authority, his uniform lending an intimidating weight to his presence. His eyes darted between Jasmine and the clerk, settling with a preconceived impatience on Jasmine as she continued to assert her rights. To Officer Dunham, the scene was one of disorder needing quick resolution, the nuances of Jasmine's righteous challenge disregarding the broader societal dynamics at play. Jasmine paused, looking towards the officer, her expression a cocktail of disbelief and frustration. The briefest of moments hung suspended in the air as onlookers watched the interaction. With a misguided determination to restore order, Officer Dunham made a fateful choice. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to lower your voice," he stated, his tone bearing the authority of unchallenged power. Jasmine's response was firm but respectful, yet her commitment to her cause only seemed to confirm the officer's misread of the situation. In a decision fueled by misinterpretation, Officer Dunham reached for his cuffs, the cold metal glinting ominously under the store's unyielding lights. "For disorderly conduct, you're under arrest," he declared, his grip firm but unnecessary. Shock rippled through the crowd as Jasmine's wrists were bound, her objections drowned out by the collective gasp of onlookers. Her arrest felt like a stark, painful reminder of the disparity in voices given space and those stifled by systemic indifference. Jasmine's eyes met those of the witnesses around her, unspoken connection bridging her silence with their shared outrage. As she was led away, the weight of the moment settling into her bones, Jasmine understood deeply that this was not just a personal indignity, but a broader call to arms against the barriers enforced by outdated laws and skewed perceptions. In her heart, she knew this was not an end, but the beginning of a much larger struggle for equity, a fight that would transcend the walls of the fluorescent-lit store and ripple into the broader world beyond. The patrol car's headlights cast long shadows as they sliced through the dim evening, illuminating the path to the local police station. Inside the car, Jasmine Crockett sat quietly, the cold steel of handcuffs biting into her wrists. Her mind buzzed with an electrifying mix of anger and resolve. The vibrant world of the Target store, now several streets behind her, had been replaced by the sterile confines of the vehicle, a compressed space where her thoughts ricocheted like sparks. Officer Mark Dunham drove in silence, his face a mask of determined indifference, blind to the significance of the moment unraveling before him, incapable or unwilling to grasp the larger narrative he had unwittingly stepped into. As the station loomed closer, Jasmine felt the weight of the socio-cultural battlefield she was inadvertently drawn into. Her arrest was not an isolated incident, but a microcosm of a far-reaching struggle. As a community organizer, Jasmine understood the power dynamics that colored every interaction, the historical tensions woven deeply into the fabric of daily life. Yet, sitting in the back seat, she was acutely aware of her role in the unfolding story. It was not merely her own rights at stake, but a reflection of the systemic oversights and biases she had long fought against. Her thoughts resonated with the stories of countless others who had been silenced or marginalized by the mechanics of a flawed system. Upon arrival, the station's fluorescent lights were glaringly bright against the evening's onset, a harsh reminder of the institutional machinery awaiting her. Officer Dunham, in his quest for authority and validation within the system, marched her inside with procedural austerity. Yet, in his actions, he failed to acknowledge the tide he stirred. Jasmine's fortitude, unseen by him, was a force he could not extinguish. Her community, though physically absent, was an omnipresent entity, ready to rally at the mere whisper of her incarceration. Jasmine was escorted to a holding cell, the cold clang of the metal gate a stark punctuation to her sudden, unjust confinement. The small, sparse cell seemed to echo her frustration, a tangible embodiment of her internal turmoil. Each tick of the clock on the narrow walls amplified her restlessness, her need for action growing sharper by the second. As she sat on the hard bench, Jasmine's mind was a whirlwind of plans and possibilities, driven by the urgent need to transform her personal plight into public discourse. In that silence, broken only by the distant murmur of station activity, Jasmine's resolve crystallized. She knew that her ordeal was a narrative waiting to unfold, a rallying cry for those outside who shared her vision of equality and justice. Her situation transcended individual concern. It was emblematic of a broader struggle against racial injustice and the systemic barriers reinforcing it. She envisioned the faces of those who had stood with her in peaceful protests and community meetings, each one a testament to resilience and steadfast commitment. Jasmine understood that this moment, fraught with tension and poised on the precipice of change, was hers to mold. As the walls of the cell confined her physically, they spurred a mental liberation, fueling a desire to transcend this setback. The growing frustration was a wellspring of determination, a prelude to the ignition of change that she and her community would soon embody. In the digital age, information moves with a velocity unhindered by physical boundaries, and Jasmine Crockett's arrest swiftly became a case in point. Within minutes of her detention, the echoes of the unjust scene at Target began to ripple through the vast expanse of social media. Shoppers who had witnessed the arrest reached for their smartphones, their fingers flying across screens to document their shock and indignation, their posts capturing the raw immediacy of the moment. Each tweet and status update pulsed with the urgency of witnessing a wrong that demanded attention. These digital murmurs soon reached Leah Simmons, Jasmine's longtime friend and a fiercely dedicated civil rights lawyer known for her unyielding pursuit of justice. Leah was at her office, finishing up another intense day of advocacy when the notifications began to flood her feed. Her eyes narrowed, scanning the stream of messages detailing her friend's arrest. The emotions that followed swept over Leah like a tidal wave: outrage, sorrow, but most importantly, determination. Leah's intimate understanding of systemic injustice, honed by years of battling it in courtrooms and on city streets, ignited a fire within her. Jasmine, who had stood beside her countless times in protests and community meetings, was now in need of the very solidarity and activism they had both championed. With firm resolve, Leah's fingers flew across her smartphone's screen as she skillfully navigated this modern arsenal of advocacy, summoning a powerful force through texts, tweets, and direct messages. Reaching out to local activists, journalists, and community leaders, Leah crafted a compelling narrative that was impossible to ignore. "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere," she wrote, echoing the timeless words of Martin Luther King Jr., galvanizing her network into action with each keystroke. Her messages, infused with urgency and purpose, resonated deeply, touching those who had themselves felt the sting of unjust treatment, or who believed passionately in the fight against systemic inequality. The digital call to arms spread like wildfire, each share and retweet an amplification of Leah's determined battle cry. Within minutes, a movement began to coalesce, the impassioned voices of a connected community converging toward the neural jurisdiction of the police station. Local activist groups mobilized, fueled by Leah's rallying communication, their shared conviction, a testament to Jasmine's impact and the broader human rights issues at stake. As the sun dipped beneath the horizon, painting the city in shades of twilight, those answering Leah's call were already making their way to the station, banners in hand and chants forming on their lips. Journalists hastily rearranged their schedules, sensing the gravity of the developing story, a narrative deeply intertwined with ongoing struggles for equality and justice. Amidst her orchestrating efforts, Leah found a moment to pause, her breath steadying as she contemplated the intensity of the unfolding events. The arrest of her friend was not an isolated incident, but a spark reigniting the collective consciousness of a community, poised and ready to demand accountability. Leah knew that tonight was not just about Jasmine, but a resonating moment for all those who had been voiceless within a system ripe for reform. Her heart thrummed with conviction, her purpose reaffirmed with every message sent and response received. For Leah, galvanizing others into action was not merely a task, it was a calling. The cadence of her efforts marked the rhythm of a determined march toward justice, a reminder that even in the face of systemic opposition, the will of the community, once united, was an unstoppable force. As dusk settled over the city, the police station stood as an unintended epicenter of a growing societal unrest, its stark facade illuminated by streetlights and the flickering flashes of cameras. Inside, Officer Dunham's superiors found themselves navigating uncharted territory, recognizing with mounting unease that the arrest of Jasmine Crockett had transcended a mere procedural matter. The atmosphere within the station crackled with tension, the stark fluorescent-lit corridors echoing with the murmurs of officers aware that they had ignited something far greater than a routine arrest. Outside, Leah Simmons was already at work, the transformation from lawyer to advocate seamless and sure. Her voice carried across the gathering crowd with an urgency and clarity that left no room for doubt. This was not an isolated misstep, but a reflection of entrenched issues demanding resolution. The impromptu press conference Leah spearheaded effectively dismantled any notion of the situation being contained. Journalists clutched microphones, their cameras rolling, as Leah painted a vivid picture of systemic failure. With each carefully chosen word, Leah exposed the layers of bias that had culminated in her friend's arrest. Her narrative was a call to consciousness, highlighting not only Jasmine's situation, but the pervasive injustices that affected communities across the nation. As the media outlets broadcasted her powerful discourse, the air vibrated with a collective demand for accountability. What had started as a single, unjust action had become a catalyst, igniting a widespread dialogue on the need for reform. Within the press conference, Leah's eyes met the lenses of cameras with fierce determination, her expression unwavering in the face of scrutiny. She fielded questions with the precision of someone long familiar with the relentless pursuit of justice, articulating a vision for change that resounded well beyond the boundaries of the evening's events. Her message was clear. Jasmine's arrest was not an anomaly, but a symptom of a deeper systemic malaise that required redress. Meanwhile, the station's occupants, from desk sergeants to the highest-ranking officers, felt the seismic shift wrought by this impromptu gathering. The chain of command was acutely aware that they were not confronting just a community's discontent, but a movement with the potential to reshape public perception and ignite policy change. In conference rooms and corridors, whispered conversations revealed a growing consensus that the situation demanded more than standard protocols, a realization that the status quo was no longer an option. Inside the cell, Jasmine remained composed, a quiet strength emanating from her as she watched the televised unfolding of events beyond the bars. Her voice, when she spoke to the few officers who passed, was measured and anchored in a deep commitment to justice, its calmness a stark contrast to the turmoil outside, yet charged with purpose. This contrast did not go unnoticed. Media channels, now broadcasting her statements, amplified her quiet determination, turning it into a powerful symbol of resilience. Jasmine's words, carried far and wide, offered a compelling narrative of clarity and intent. In interviews and sound bites, she articulated a vision of justice that extended beyond her circumstances and wove through the fabric of a wider societal reckoning. Her poise in the face of adversity was not just commendable but transformative, inspiring those who tuned in to view her plight through a lens of actionable empathy. In essence, Jasmine's ordeal became not only a catalyst for dialogue, but a rallying point for a community poised to convert outrage into action. The station, despite its confines, had become a crucible for transformation, a place where systemic flaws were laid bare, and the clarion call for reform was broadcast for all to hear. The voice of Jasmine Crockett, reinforced by Leah's advocacy and amplified by media presence, now stood as a testament to individual agency and collective power, poised on the precipice of change. The night air outside the police station buzzed with the murmur of an expectant crowd, their collective energy a palpable force pressing against the imposing concrete walls. Inside, a tense silence clung to the station's corridors, punctuated only by the intermittent ringing of phones as the lines lit up with the demands of an awakened citizenry. Television screens flickered in the lobby, capturing live footage of the growing assembly outside, while inside those walls, the pressure mounted like steam in a boiler ready to burst. Jasmine Crockett, her image displayed across countless screens, had come to personify something far greater than her individual ordeal. The story of her arrest resonated deeply in the hearts of many who had witnessed, experienced, or empathized with the systemic injustices she now represented. Her composed visage, broadcast through television and social media alike, served as a symbol of strength and resistance, a rallying cry against the inequities woven into the societal tapestry. Viewers across the city and beyond tuned into the unfolding drama, drawn to a narrative that was as much about a fight for individual rights as it was about a collective struggle for dignity and fairness. The personal plight of Jasmine Crockett echoed with historical significance, reaching into the roots of a broader conversation about justice and equality. Her story, reframed by the immediacy and reach of the media, became a flashpoint for dialogue and activism, an embodiment of how individual resilience could challenge systemic dysfunction. Within the walls of the station chief found himself at a crossroads, grappling with the implications of Jasmine's detainment. The calls from concerned citizens grew in volume and intensity, a chorus of dissent that could not be easily dismissed. Each insistent ring was a reminder of the shifting public sentiment, a testament to the power of collective voice now trained upon the institution he was sworn to uphold. The chief, a man seasoned by years within the department, was acutely aware of the precarious position he faced. To stand by the actions of Officer Dunham would risk alienating both public trust and the integrity of his leadership. Yet to cede to public pressure required navigating the complicated dynamics of departmental loyalty and accountability. The stakes were clear: the choice between staunchly defending the tenuous justification of disorderly conduct or acknowledging the broader implications of an unjust process. In his office, the muted hum of tense conversations bore witness to his internal deliberations. Officers, some defending their colleague, others silently questioning the wisdom of the arrest, lingered in the chief's periphery as he weighed the options before him. To act with integrity was to recognize the validity of the public outcry, to place the values of justice above the insular instincts of departmental protectionism. Jasmine's detainment had set in motion a re-examination of priorities, a critical moment where leadership demanded a response not only to the currents of outrage and empathy outside, but also to the underlying ethos of justice that the department was meant to serve. The station chief, with these considerations pressing upon him, understood that this decision would reverberate beyond the night's events, influencing the ongoing dialogue about fairness and the application of authority. Thus, within the confines of his office, amidst the ringing phones and the silent judgments of his peers, the station chief contemplated his course of action. The necessity for a measured, principled response was clear, one that would not just address the immediate situation, but would also honor the voices of those demanding justice. As he prepared to confront the ramifications of his impending decision, the echoes of the public outcry served as a reminder of the impact one story could have in catalyzing change. Amidst the hum of activity both inside and outside the station, a decision was finally reached, sending ripples through the crowd gathered in anticipation. The tension that had filled the air, thick and unyielding, began to lift as word spread that Jasmine Crockett would be released. The wise acknowledgement of public sentiment had ushered in a necessary shift, diffusing the charged atmosphere that had coalesced around the station's imposing walls. As Jasmine emerged from the heavy doors into the cool night, applause erupted, reverberating through the gathered throng like a wave of affirmative energy. Their cheers, vibrant and heartfelt, enveloped Jasmine, a testament to her resilience and the collective power that had seen her liberated. Her composure, a beacon of determination throughout her ordeal, now held a newfound glow, a mixture of relief, triumph, and purpose. Microphones and cameras surged forward as she paused on the steps, a sea of faces, both familiar and new, looking to her for words that might encapsulate the magnitude of this moment. Her speech, delivered with characteristic poise, resonated with authenticity, each word chosen with precision to capture the essence of the struggle she had come to represent. Jasmine spoke not just as an individual wronged, but as a voice amplified by the chorus of support surrounding her. "Tonight is not merely about my release," she began, her voice strong and clear, resonating through the night air and across the nation through the live feeds. "It is a testament to our collective voice, a reminder that when we stand together against injustice, we are a force for powerful change." Her words veered gracefully into a broader dialogue on systemic issues, her tone imbued with the wisdom of someone who had long battled such inequities. She thanked those who had shown unwavering support, her gratitude evident as she acknowledged the activists, friends, and everyday citizens who had rallied to her cause. As she spoke, the cameras captured not only her words, but the spirit of a movement coalescing around them, a call for accountability and reform echoing in the hearts of many. In the wake of her release, news channels dissected the event with fervor, analyzing the implications that reached beyond Jasmine's individual case. Her story, on the lips of anchors and commentators alike, became a viral sensation, transforming into both a personal and public victory. Clips of her speech circulated widely across social media platforms, finding resonance in the shared aspirations for a just society. Meanwhile, inside the station, consequences began unfolding in the wake of public scrutiny. Officer Mark Dunham, whose actions had precipitated this pivotal night, faced suspension pending a comprehensive investigation. The decision, though initially procedural, bore the weight of symbolic importance. It signified a tremor of accountability shaking the foundations of entrenched practices. The temporary removal of Officer Dunham served as more than a mere administrative measure. It was a tangible response to the community's clarion call for justice. It stood as an acknowledgement of the changing tides, a nod to the demand for oversight and integrity within institutions often shielded from transparency. In the following days, Jasmine's ordeal continued to resonate, her dignity in the face of adversity capturing the public imagination. Her words, immortalized not just in digital archives, but in the collective memory of those yearning for change, underscored a critical truth. The pursuit of justice is a communal endeavor, reliant upon the unity and determination of many. Through her story, Jasmine Crockett not only highlighted existing faults, but catalyzed a dialogue about reform and the potential for systemic transformation. A dialogue destined to grow louder with each voice that joined the ever-swelling chorus for change. Her release had marked the beginning of a crucial narrative, one that now belonged not just to her, but to all those inspired to fight against injustice. The momentum from Jasmine Crockett's ordeal propelled her story far beyond its initial confines, transforming her experience into a meaningful catalyst for systemic change. In the weeks following her release, the community stirred with newfound energy, setting the stage for discussions about reform that had been long overdue. What began as a singular act of injustice emerged as an impetus for a broader re-examination of police practices, spotlighting the necessity of evolving outdated protocols and embracing transparency. Town hall meetings became the crucibles for these pivotal conversations, bustling with impassioned citizens eager to voice their perspectives and shape a communal vision for justice. In packed school auditoriums and community centers, people gathered, motivated by Jasmine's story, to participate actively in reshaping the policies that govern them. Each meeting buzzed with the fervor of engaged dialogue, a vibrant tapestry of voices, each contributing their lived experiences and insights to paint a fuller picture of the systemic issues at hand. Community leaders from diverse backgrounds convened with police officials, creating a platform for open and honest exchanges. Jasmine herself often stood at the forefront, her presence both a reminder of the past and a beacon guiding the community toward a fairer future. Her experiences lent authenticity to the discourse, while her ideas on reform resonated deeply with those in attendance. These meetings became a living testament to the power of collective action, where stories mingled with data to forge a compelling argument for change. Central to these discussions was the need to reform the criteria and enforcement of disorderly conduct charges, a focal point of inertia in many community law enforcement interactions. Voices echoed through the rooms, recounting similar incidents where such charges had been applied haphazardly, disproportionately affecting marginalized voices. The collective realization was profound. The status quo not only sowed distrust, but stymied the potential for harmonious coexistence between police and community. Out of this crucible of ideas emerged action. A petition circulated through communities and online platforms, blending personal stories with urgent calls for accountability. The response was overwhelming, with signatures piling in from all corners, each name representing a commitment to a more equitable enforcement of law. This groundswell of support, spearheaded by activists and influential community members, quickly gained traction, capturing the attention of policymakers who were now faced with an undeniable mandate for change. Fueled by the petition's momentum, legislators began drafting a reform bill aimed at recalibrating police protocols, not merely to placate public outcry, but to genuinely reflect the restorative philosophy of modern justice. This bill drew inspiration from the tapestry of voices mobilized by Jasmine's story, embedding principles of fairness and transparency into a framework designed to reduce conflict and enhance accountability. Notably, this reform bill bore Jasmine's name, an honor that recognized not only her individual contribution to the movement, but also the collective effort her case had inspired. Naming the bill after Jasmine signified a commitment to memorializing the lessons learned from her experience and acknowledged the resilience of a community unwilling to accept the status quo. As these efforts unfolded, the atmosphere was charged with the promise of change, with Jasmine's story serving as a foundational cornerstone. The movement she had sparked grew roots, intertwining with the fabric of society's consciousness, its branches reaching toward a future where justice and equity were not aspirations, but realized truths. Her case, once an emblem of personal injustice, had matured into a symbol of hope and transformation, a testament to what could be achieved when determined voices joined together in pursuit of a common cause. In the aftermath of her release, Jasmine Crockett did not recede into anonymity. She emerged as an inspiring beacon of advocacy and empowerment. Her experience became a transformative chapter in the ongoing narrative of social justice, a stirring embodiment of resistance that reverberated far beyond her immediate circle. No longer just a community organizer, Jasmine had ascended to the status of an icon, a living testament to the profound impact one determined voice could wield against the entrenched inertia of systemic injustice. Harnessing the momentum of her personal ordeal, Jasmine dedicated herself to the cause of those whose voices had been marginalized or suppressed by the often indifferent mechanisms of the system. Her story became a crucible of empowerment for countless individuals who, like her, had faced the dismissive sweep of authority without just cause. With a steadfast resolve, she carved out pathways for change, using her platform to amplify the cries for justice that echoed in every corner of society. Jasmine's tireless efforts materialized in the form of advocacy groups and support networks, structures she helped build to offer refuge and recourse to the underserved. Her strategic acumen turned these initiatives into formidable entities capable of challenging unjust practices and supporting legislative reform. Jasmine devoted countless hours to meeting with policymakers, sharing insights drawn from her own experiences and those of the people she represented, illustrating with irrefutable clarity the human cost of systemic failures. Public engagements became opportunities for Jasmine to galvanize support and initiate dialogue. Her speeches, both impassioned and incisive, resonated deeply, inspiring action and sparking heightened awareness among audiences across the nation. Each address was infused with the weight of her journey, her words carrying the authenticity and grace that came only from having walked the very path she sought to illuminate for others. Her impact was not confined to legislative arenas or public forums. On a more intimate level, Jasmine's story reached into the hearts of those who had felt voiceless, offering them a narrative of hope and agency. In community centers, schools, and grassroots gatherings, she shared her journey, encouraging others to raise their voices and assert their rights. Her message was clear. No individual was too small to affect change, no story too insignificant to be shared. The ripple effect of Jasmine's advocacy was profound. Inspired by her resilience, individuals previously on the fringes stepped forward, driven by the belief that they too could influence the corridors of power. These newly empowered voices carried Jasmine's message further into the societal consciousness, transforming isolated calls for justice into a symphony of change that could not be ignored. Jasmine's triumph became emblematic of the broader fight for equality and justice, a narrative of transformation that transcended her personal experience to resonate with universal ideals. Her journey from an unjustly accused individual to a symbol of empowerment illuminated the indelible truth that systemic change was within reach, one voice at a time. Through her steadfast dedication, Jasmine Crockett had indeed carved out a lasting legacy, one that stood as an enduring reminder of the possibilities that arise when courage, conviction, and community converge in pursuit of a just world.